Hello everybody, it's David R. Becker here with BeckerArt, and I am in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. And this morning I already did a Zoom meeting with the club that I'm the president of, but everything seemed to be working okay. We may cut out, I'm not sure, the Wi-Fi here is not the greatest, but we'll see what we can do. And happy Veterans Day to all you veterans. And this is one of my scenes I had done behind me right here. This is the one I had done for my, I'm still gonna do a exhibition, and it's been about 3 years now. It's been delayed and delayed and delayed, but this is going to be part of the exhibition I have, and this is on black paper. So if and not next week, but the week after, we're probably going to be working on black paper, and so be ready for that. And oh, wow, it just fell down. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so here we go. You can tell there's a in the hotel room. This is the box, the big box. So, anyways, here we go. Now let's start out with our supply list. So here's what we're going to use for supplies. Now, for all you newcomers, I usually do every Thursday we do a paint along, and I just got back from the Art in the Carolinas, where we were setting up for Legion Papers, and this week I'm working with Legion Papers instead of Holbein. And here, let's go to to know where I can get all this stuff is my website, so BeckerArt.net, or my name, davidarbecker.com. And so that's all you have to do is go to here, and you can see what we're painting. And right down here is what we're painting. Today we are doing a scene with white in it. So, and I know we're starting at 4 o'clock because this afternoon, in the evening, Holbein and Legion Paper, we're going all out to dinner, and it is my birthday today, and so hopefully we'll celebrate my birthday there while we're out there too. So let's go right to the tabletop. I can't believe it fell down. It was up all day, that painting, and so let me just, I don't know, hopefully it doesn't. So this is the painting I did. Again, it's on black paper. You can see it's on black paper, and so done with a little bit of white. So let me just put that aside. I cannot believe. And right before I got on, my glasses also broke, so I got another pair. So these pair I'll have to do. Everything happens right before you go on. And so thanks guys for the birthday wishes. And let's see who's on here. And the thing was, I was so busy today, I totally forgot to get a beer. So I have no beer to toast with today. I'll be going out afterwards and stuff. So all I have was what I brought up, and I have a Naked Green machine juice. So cheers everybody with the Naked Green juice. Happy birthday, and cheers to myself, I guess, with the Happy Green. Cheers everybody. Naked Green machine juice. So okay, we're starting early. You know, we're gonna play it by ear. Hopefully this will help me if we go out tonight and go out to dinner. All right. So welcome everybody. There's almost so many people. I'm going to stop mentioning all the names because there's so many people that are on, and so many people don't actually say hello. So welcome everybody, all you guys. Thanks for coming back every week and week, and I've been loving what you guys have been doing. The cats were great. So last week, with the cat, we had done wet into wet and soft edges, and that is so important. And you guys did a great job with it. I'm really happy that you guys are learning wet into wet. You don't know how important it is to learn wet into wet, and you're going to have to know that tonight. I am going to use a little bit of white, but I'm also going to do a lot of this line work or the clouds with a wet into wet wash, and so I'm going to leave the white of the paper. And as you can tell back here, I didn't pencil in very much. Don't ever pencil in clouds, because if you pencil in clouds, you're going to see the black line, and it's not going to work as a soft edge. And so don't sit there and try to get and go around the clouds with a pencil. All right. And so I noticed that my palette was nice and dirty, so I'm gonna really clean it real quick. Sorry, it's been I've been really messed up with the time zone and with the changing of the time this weekend, that I have no idea what time it was when I got here. I was like, what the heck time is this? And then I'm an hour ahead from Central Standard Time, so really here it's 5 o'clock. And I actually came running from the Art of the Carolinas thinking that I was late. I was just about to go on, and I was like, oh wait, it's still 4. So I was already here an hour before thinking I had to rush, but so I didn't get much done. so here we go. All right, and if any questions, wow, your drink is a deviation. Enjoy a good drink later. Yes, I will definitely enjoy a better drink than Naked Green juice. I can't believe I didn't get a beer for this one. It's my birthday. And so, but here, cheers everybody. I know this stuff is good because I drink it after I do all my run and stuff, and it's all green, you know, green stuff. It's good for you. But I'm having drink to stuff tonight that's not good for me. So cheers, cheers, cheers. All right. So when we start with this, we're gonna go back to front. Definitely the clouds are gonna be wet and wet. I'm gonna use white too, and I'm actually gonna use some gouache. And let me just pull over the box of gouache. Hold on, I forgot about that too. So we're going to add a little bit of gouache to our thing, into our thing. So this is my palette. These are my sets of gouache, and I'm going to maybe use a little bit of the color, maybe a yellow, or let me see what they have here. So I may use some of these colors just to squeeze in a little bit, and get some of these opaque. I'm going to do dark, and I'm going to put opaque leaves on top of there. I know it's a very green picture, and I will let's go with some of greens. I know I always say I don't like greens, but I mean I do use some greens in my work. And there goes the mouse. And sorry to make it at 4 o'clock today. Actually, for me it's 5 o'clock, but for 4 o'clock for you guys. I know it's a lot earlier than normal then, but I gotta go out to dinner tonight, so we're not gonna. I couldn't do it at 6:30 today. Excuse me. All right, let's get going here before we stop. Oh boy, I didn't clean my brushes up, or you can tell. All right, so there's my brush, and I'm going to use the hotel thing. This hotel is a pretty sloppy hotel, so I don't think it's going to matter if I got their towels dirty. Matter of fact, I looked in there was no shower curtain this morning in the shower. I was like, oh boy, this is a great hotel. Okay, so when we go with the background, basically the sky is going to be cloudy, right? And so that's going to be a lot of grays, and I can go with the greenish background. I can go whatever color I want, the blues or the greens or the violets. I'm going to go again with the violets because I'm going to do some of the yellow, green, yellows, and some orange, like it's more fall than this picture is. But evergreens are pretty much green anyway, so we're gonna go with that anyway. So we're gonna have to have green because we do have evergreens in there. All right, so I'm gonna wet the whole background, and so that way we can get our nice clouds. And I'm gonna try to. There's still my water got dirty right away because I had blue in my brush from last week, I think, or from something I was painting. So I'm going through all this stuff and right into the water. Just going to evenly level the playing field here with a lot of water everywhere. This morning we had Carol Carter do a demonstration, and uses a lot of the same techniques that I use. If you ever watched her stuff, I mean, she floats her pigment. Doesn't say she floats her pigment, but she definitely floats her pigment a lot. Where she'll do an area, and then she mixes all her colors on her paper. Nothing is mixed in her palette, like. So that was really interesting to see somebody else, professional artists do that. And so here we are wetting everything. You can check out our website at carolcarter.com. She's a St. Louis artist and great artist, amazing stuff. And she never uses the color that the item is. Like we were talking about flesh tones. She never makes up a flesh tone color. She always makes it like green or blue, and it's very interesting style that she has. Anyway, let's get into our grays, and so I'm going to use my lavender, of course, like I always like to use my lavender. And so I'm going to work on making the clouds. So I'm negative painting around the clouds, and I drew it up so that the top of the mountain here is going to be showing up through here a little bit. And then I'm going to the side of the mountain I'm going to do in here. And I'll probably put a little green in there, but I'm working around the clouds, and so I want it to look like there's a lot of clouds up here, or just fog. Could that be something? Yeah, it could be like fog in the mountains too, mist and stuff like that. And then I could put a little bit of blue in the sky because you do kind of sometimes see through the clouds, or it's a gray and you kind of can see through there. But I'm just going to try to make sure that this is clouds and mist in the mountains. And then I'll add a little bit of green into that a little bit, so a little quinacridone into my blue and into my violet. And I'm just going to go in here and make little trees, where the cloud is not, or the mist or fog is not. So I'm going to go right around there. And I also, if I do, I'm going to show you over here, I'm just going to go dark, and I'm going to put white on top of that. It's just that you can put white, and you can use white to get some of your mist or fog or clouds. It's not always that you have to totally get your mist with just the white of the paper, because it does not. Sometimes you can definitely get it that way, but you can also get it by using a little bit of white paint. And that's what this is kind of about this week. It's about next, and then next week we're going to be learning, because you have to learn how to use white when we use the black paper. So I want you to learn how to use the white and also black, because that's something we're going to be using, and hopefully you have a little bit of that. I use titanium white for those that don't have white yet in their palette. I don't use the Chinese white because Chinese white is transparent, and so when you put it down, you barely see it because it just gets transparent. You see through it to the paper, so it doesn't do as well as like you can with the titanium. Now these are 3 lines I don't like, so I know this is all different, but I wanted to have a little bit in here, so I'm gonna pop in a little bit of trees there. I'm gonna keep maybe just a little bit, like you can just see a little bit of trees poking through here. And of course the top of the mountain, I still want to have that kind of show through the cloud. So just to kind of have that in there. And again, you need enough pigment, like we did last week with the cat. You got to learn how to be able to make your edges into wet wash. That's what all last week was about. And for those of you who had done that, where you just made the whole cat soft edge, you see how neat that was and how easy it was? It was very simple because, well, it's not simple to actually draw with that, but it's one wash and it's done. And so that's what we want to teach you, is to get these washes done. Go in, get the wash, wet into wet. You're going to get soft edges because you're working it wet into wet, and then get out. And then you don't have to ever touch it again. And this now is the clouds coming through there. And I can go back in and get even some more little darks in there, but I don't need to. If I like the way it is, then you stop. You know, I'm going to make this a little bit darker here maybe. I can get some hard edges in there too, as long as they're not very contrasty. You can do that too. Alright, so that's the first wash, with right into the clouds, and we're right down into these trees. Everything as I come forward gets darker, right? And so I can keep on going. I don't have to stop. I can just keep on going because it gets darker, and if I still want a soft edge, I just have to use more pigment. Remember? Always use more pigment. So here I'm going to take a little bit of, this is actually green here, look at that. There's some green on my palette. This is my palette that goes out with me on plein air. And so there actually is green in this palette. This side over here is my browns, or my earth tones. And so what am I doing here? I'm mixing some light blue. And so now we're going to go in here and just get this a little bit darker, coming right through down here. Now this is all still wet, but now I can have it a little bit where it's damp, and I can make watermarks, because watermarks look like great trees too. You can make them look like they'll spread out and make like a nice tree back here. And these will be soft edges, so I will have to use enough paint without the water. Boy, I'm really using your towels, ain't I? Oh well, it's not the greatest hotel, so we're gonna sit here and make some trees. And these trees are farther back, so I kind of want to gray them a little bit. And if there's too much water on your brush, always tap it onto your paper towel or onto tissue paper. Just tap the one side, and then it eliminates the water and comes this way. Hey everybody, hey Debbie and Lynn, you guys are all here. You know everybody knows everybody. And thanks for the birthday wishes again too, guys. It's really nice of you. And so we're coming down here, gonna go with this right into that part that I just did, and it's still wet, and so I'm gonna get this to kind of bleed slightly. It's gonna be a soft edge. Take this right in. And as you notice in my drawing, and we never went to our value study, did we? We just went right into this. Okay, we'll go into that later. But I'm going, and it's getting darker as we come forward. And nobody told me that I totally forgot the water, didn't I? I didn't put any of that into the water, because the water is basically just a light. And so I'll explain that later a little bit. Normally I would do the water right away too, but then go right down into here. Now I can negative paint a little. Oh, this is where I'm going to put the white paint. This is where I'm going to put the white paint. So let me show you. I was helping out over at the Art of the Carolinas, and we must have opened about, I don't know, 50 boxes of paper, and so and then I ran over here thinking it was too late. I was like, oh no, but there's a lot of paper over there, that Legion paper. So see, on my chest today we have Legion papers, not Holbein, but they're just as good a company. They're the paper company I use, all the papers. This is I use Stonehenge. So see, I'm putting these dark trees right here, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to use white paint to get dead fog in there. Because just because I could have done it with the white paint, and let's say you did that, what I just did. I said, oh no, I just forgot. And I actually did forget. So there's no big deal there. We can go right back in here, and I'm just going to make this dark, and then I'm going to show you how to float some dark pigment right in there, or some light pigment right inside there. But let me just get this part done here with some of the trees. Again, work wet into wet and get your shapes like you did the kitty. You get it one wash, one time, and you get the soft edges. Learn how to control those edges because you get it done so quickly. You know, it's so neat that you can just get something done and it's not running all over the place. I got a little bit brighter. I put a little bit more blue in that wash right there. Now let me show you with white. I'm going to take white paint, and I have a little bit of it right here. Oh, I got to fill up my white. Good thing Holbein is there because I can get a bunch of new colors. So one thing nice about this Art in the Carolinas by Jerry's Artorama, they have a big store they open up there, and it's just filled with all kinds of deals, and then all the vendors have their supplies too. All right, so here I'm gonna go with white. Look at this. This is wet, and I'm gonna go in here, and I'm gonna use my spray bottle, which I had here somewhere. Where did I put it? Oh, there it is, over there. Ah. I'll just use my brush. It's too far over there. It's in the kitchen. Okay, we're gonna go in here and just see. I'm just putting white in there now. I'm just letting it float in the water. I'm just gonna wet this area up on top here and just let it float down into this area. It's still wet, and by using pure white, it's floating, and it'll give you those little fingers. And boy, Carol Carter named those today, and it was a perfect name for them, and I totally forgot what it was. I'll have to remember. I'll have to look back at her video. The video will be on the Lake Region Watercolor Guild website, but I'll have to see what she had mentioned with the name of the little fingers, the little, what would she call them? But they're like little fingers you can see close up. You can see how they look really, there's like little lines that come off there. And so then I'll put them down here a little bit, and then I'll take the darker trees and paint them right on top of that. Because you can still do that. I mean, you can still go on top of that. And this is just floating pigment. It's just floating on top, and it will look transparent, but it'll give me a kind of a neat look, a neat effect. Well, I'm going to spatter a little bit because you know how much I love to spatter. And so now we go for it right from there to our water because I forgot that. And this will be darker. Actually, let's get our really bright lights. Some of the, look at how green and blue this is. Wow, you never see me use this much. So as I go down here, I'm just going to start going to my yellows. And this is going to be a very yellow tree right here. But I'm not going to make it as bright as I think because I am going to go in with gouache. And I'm going to go with some thick paint. So now I'm just going to go in here and get some of these light yellows. Some lavenders. A little bit brighter. Because I'm going to negative paint around these a little bit to get some of the background. Because this is basically in the front here. I want to make it kind of orangey. Like more fall-like than green. Like more of the fall colors. May put a little bit of that in here too, a little bit more of the orange, a little more of the salmon color. And I still haven't done my water. I know I keep on going, but I'm just keep on coming down with this so I get nice soft edges. I can still do the water. Don't worry about that. Any questions? Thanks for the birthday wishes again. The nice thing about having your birthday on Veterans Day is I always head off of school and all that, so that everybody was always celebrating anyway. So it's kind of fun having your birthday on Veterans Day. So here we go on here. All right, so that's a little bit of a greenish, yellowish orange, if that makes sense. I'm going to keep this, and now I'm going to go in and do the water. Finally going to do the water. Now these little splashes that I had out there when I was spattering a little bit, those can be little birds in the sky. So as we come down here, I'm just going to take some of this dirty water here, and I'm just going to kind of go through here and go back and forth horizontally, and just making it wavy because that's what it is. It's basically just a bunch of waves. And remember, the top of a wave that's white, you keep white of the paper, and you leave that as the churning part of the paper. And as I go into here, I'm going to get close, but I'm not going to hit maybe here and there I'll hit the side of it and let some of that orange go into the water. And just back and forth, and kind of get the color from the sky, maybe a little bit of the blue green or blue violet that I used in the sky, because it does mix a little bit of the light blue here. I am going to put rocks in here later, and so we'll put that there too. But so look at how the white now looks. The white, you can't even tell that it's you know, it was white paint. It looks more like, if you're up close, it looks just like it was the paper. And just it's an effect. It's not, you don't have to worry about it. And when we come to the black paper, you have to use white, and you have to use white to get your light colors to pop off the black. And they have to be thick sometimes, because otherwise they just dull down to a gray. If you want white, you have to make it pretty thick and with a lot of paint. Like if you have to make something really dark, you have to use a lot of paint, like black, or a color that's really dark. All right, so there's our water. And now we're going to go into our darks. So we're right into our dark areas now. So I'll finally get rid of my big 1-inch brush. Now I'll go into, let's see, we're going to start with these trees over here. And then we'll work our way forward. Always work the way back to the front. This is pretty much going to be done. I'm going to, if I want to, I could maybe put some, I'm going to mist it a little bit. I'm going to run over there and get my mister bottle. I'm going to show you how to put on afterwards, after it's dry. It's still not totally dry, so while this is damp, I still can get a nice hard edge if I use a lot of pigment. Actually, it's almost dry. So let's go in here and I get our dark trees. As you can see, they're very dark pine trees. So take my Prussian blue. Actually, I even have some bamboo green here that's really dark. Quinacridone gold, maybe some Prussian blue. Get some of this earth tone over here to dull it down a little bit. Now I'm going to go right in here, and remember my brush stroke, how I did use my brush stroke to get pine needles. Sometimes I push my brush in a direction where the pine needles go, and I bend the bristles. And again, I don't know if I can show you that on. From the side, closer up, you can see what I do is I push it like this. See, I kind of push it in this direction to get the pine needles. I bend it, I kind of push, and I bend the whole brush back, and so it's going like this kind of motion to get your pine needles to look like pine needles on this kind of tree. And once I get the outer edge, and then this is wet on the inside, then I go and pick up other colors. As you know me, I like to blend, just like the Carol Carter did this morning. She lets the colors blend themselves. You know, it's watercolor. That's the best thing about watercolor. She agreed, and as she was talking, she was saying she lets the watercolor do the work for her. I mean, it's the watercolor. You just let it go and bleed into itself with the water. Oh, that's just the best look. If you take a look at her work, you can see it's very, very, a lot of big floating pigment. And she floats her pigment big time. And I think I use my paint a little bit thicker than she does. But there's times, and she always uses fresh paint. She uses some Holbein, and she uses some other colors too. Now her Holbeins won't dry out, but some of our other colors would. I think she uses a couple other different manufacturers, but you know, she uses all fresh paint. She puts it out each time, which is an awesome thing to do, because she doesn't really mix her paint. She lets the paints mix themselves, which is something that's really important if you want to get really fresh colors mixing themselves together. And you can see, if you ever go to her website, carolcarter.com, you'll see that she doesn't paint anything like the photograph when it comes to colors. She's, I forgot what she called herself, but she's like in a visionary of color. She just makes up the colors and makes whatever she feels like at the time. And so we're going to go a little dark right here. So you have a little bit of this. This is all soft edge. The outer edge is hard, but inside then I can work it wet into wet. Like the kitty on the inside, you know, the shape of this is the tree, but inside you can do all kinds of shapes of the tree and weeds and stuff like that. You can do some light colors like this. I can dip in there and I can just put some little light colors that are going to float here and there and get texture. You know, do you throw salt in there for texture? Do you use, you know, all kinds of things you can get texture, or different ways of making a wash a wash. And so there's my dark. There's my dark to the left. Now we're going to get a couple of those trees in here on the right side. Same colors. I start out with the dark, and I actually drew them out a little bit, so I'm going to go right into this little wash. Now there's white in this part, but look at how it covers up, because I'm working it pretty wet, my brush, but there's a lot of pigment in here. And so I'm just, again, doing this pine tree, coming down, and I notice that it comes down to a certain point, and then it kind of bleeds into this foreground stuff. And so keeping it soft edged. So we're going in here. All right, thanks for the birthday wishes. Come on, ask me some questions. And I can't toast with this naked juice. I feel kind of naked. I don't have any beer, so cheers, guys. But I haven't drank enough anyways today. There's still time. Tomorrow we have or this evening we have all evening. I'm gonna make sure I don't drink too much because I gotta get up early tomorrow and do some demonstrations at the Art of the Carolinas in the booth. So I'll be working on black paper. So if you're in the area of Raleigh, North Carolina, that's where I'm at. I will be at the Legion booth, and the Holbein booth is right across from the kitty corner, kind of from the Legion booth. So we're all close together. So I can, if you need to know anything about Holbein, they're right over there too. So I'm coming down here. I'm just going to spatter here a little bit. I'm going to take a little paper towels up here, so I don't, when I spatter, I don't get it over my sky up here. I'm just going to put that up there for a second because I'm going to spatter in here a little bit, especially when you have like a lot of weeds. Use a toothbrush. Other people use, you know, they use it like this. They kind of spatter it with their fingers. They have funny brushes that you can use that is sort of like a brush with rubber bands to poke down like this to get kind of texture. Again, this is all just because you want to get a certain kind of wash. What kind of wash do you want? Do you want a fresh wet into wet wash? Do you want one that has a little bit more hard edges on it? Now I'm going to go in here and just do a little bit more hard edges to this side of this hill right here. And I start out with hard edge, and then I once I put down this hard edge, then it becomes wet, right? And that's where I then go back in and create other colors in there by letting them float. And you can put any color in there, suggested even by Carol Carter. So here I'm going to go through this with a dark, and I'm going to come back later with oh boy, I forgot that tissue paper. Don't want a big brown spot on in my sky. So I know I could go around these little things, and I could, but I'm going to show you how to use opaque gouache to get my darks or my lights back. And again, this is all about, you know, using a little bit more of your colors opaque, or how to use them opaque in your watercolor. Because right now I have white right here, and now you can never tell. I mean, you cannot tell if I'm right up on top of it. I cannot tell I used white paint there. It's really weird how after it floats, it just goes down and it looks like the white of the paper. It's not a look like we use it so thick that it actually shows. It's not like that at all. So now let's get our smaller brush and get a nice dark trees right here. There's two little trees right here. No questions? Come on guys, questions. Even questions of the cat, or if last week you missed something, question from 2 weeks ago that you forgot to ask, that's fine, you know, go ahead, ask me. It doesn't matter. I'm here to teach, and so you just ask away, anything. Just don't ask me my age. Because I am an old guy now. And so we're going to go up here. So we're going to go up. Another little pine tree. Let's make some of these pines a little bit different color too, so they're not all the exact same. I mean, again, go in there and throw some other colors in there besides just the one color. It's good because you have reflected color along with the green that it normally is. But some of the pine trees, if you look at them, they get very grayish, warm colors too. They could be like orange because they have a lot of dead branches, or they're starting to lose their needles a little bit, and so they seem a little bit more, you know, on the orange side, and that's fine. You know, you do that. It's okay to do that. It's best to do that because you don't want them all to look the same. And also, you don't want the same tree across it, because the tree will grow a little bit differently here and there. I'm going to put another one right here, and so I'm going to make these behind this one. Make this one a little bit darker in front here. Wherever you can to show dimension and different angles on something. Never the same. Same is not good in anything in art, really. The same, unless you're doing a formal composition. Then that's a little bit different when you're doing a formal composition, sort of like George O'Keeffe. she had done a lot of formalized compositions where one thing on one side is kind of the same on the opposite, so it's like more of a bullseye effect. So that's a little bit different than you know, keeping it an informal composition where we want things odd and odd numbered and not the same lined up perfectly. So here I'm going to put in a little bit of dark. Again, I'm using my dark here so that this pops forward, and then we're going to go get some darks in here. And again, I'm going to show you how to use some gouache colors on top of that even. Now in my water, this is so ripply, this water, that you're not going to see reflections because it's moving so fast, and you've got a lot of waves on there, so you're not going to get that kind of look where you're going to get it really the reflections. But you can put things a little bit darker like underneath here, because in a way it does, the parts that you do see where it's not white, you can darken those areas, and that way it'll look a little bit like a reflection of the trees. Not really a reflection, but more just the moving water, but darker because this is is a little bit of a reflection into the water. So I will do that close by here, but still keeping, you know, a little bit of that feel of really light water. Same thing right here. I'm going to go down and give it a little bit darker, give it a little bit more texture. Always my brushwork, you notice my brushwork is always back and forth when I'm doing water. I'm going to leave a lot of the white because that's rippled water, rippling, and you want the white to show that it's the churning of the water, the part that's fluffed up. And so that's a little bit, you can put a little bit here and there of the reflection, just to kind of indicate that there would be in parts that where it's a little bit less wavy. The white came in here. I don't know, ever did you see when I put the white in right here? I put the white in here, and I could have put it in here too, but I didn't want to. I want to show you how I can go around it, but also here, it was really dark here. This was basically green, it was wet, and I put white into this area. And then the gouache will have white in it, and so I'm going to show you that later how to use that. And I actually didn't even use some white paint on top of that. Now that will be more of a gouache technique where you're using it really thick, and you're using it almost like an oil or an acrylic. And so that's a whole different thing, but the way I used it here is the way I wanted to show you about using white, wet into wet, and just letting it act like a cloud or a puff of smoke there, a puff of like fog. And I can still go in there, and I will later on. I'm going to show you that I can go back in, re-wet that area, and then also put the white back in there. I'm still going to do that. How much time do we have? So 4:30. So we're going to 5, right? Because what time is it? Yeah, we're going to 5, so we have plenty of time yet. I'm almost done here. So ask some questions. Otherwise, I'm going to have to head out early to my birthday bash. So here we go down here, and come down, and I want to thank also last week in my class, knowing that we're not going to have class this week, although we celebrated my birthday last week, and thanks for all the cards for all those people that came to class that week and the weekend a week ago. And thank you for all the cards and the gifts. And one gift I'm going to be getting myself from some of the cash that you guys had given is I'm going to get myself a printer, 1117 printer, where I can take it to my classes, so I don't have to go out and go to Office Max or these printing companies and have the prints made, and it's getting expensive. And I know it will be also with the laser, but I can make it so it's just a line, a very small line, because all we use those 11 by 17 pages is for the line, get the line on the paper. Excuse me, the drawing on the paper. Boy, that green juice is so good. Alright, so here we get some darker coming forward. And let's get a little bit darker right here, a little bit more colorful down here. I'm going to do some little bit harder edged things like negative painted here. It'll be a great spot for my name. So a little negative painting of the light areas. And then these bushes right here. And then I'll show you how to do the details in the rocks and such. Let me get my spray bottle in a second. I'm going to show you how I'm going to put some light in here by spraying it and then putting white in there. Alright, let me just Hold on, I gotta get off my chair, grab my spray bottle in this little kitchen area. Yeah. I'll give you time to think about something to ask. Okay, so let's say afterwards, like you did something, and up here, let's say I wanted to make some more white in there, or even dark. I can take my spray bottle, and Carol Carter just showed us a mister. It was more of a fogger. It's like a very light fogging thing that she is showing. I gotta look up. It'll be in my newsletter next week because I thought it was a pretty big, huge bottle that you spray. And these pretty much do the same thing. Holbein has one that does a mist also. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go like this and spray in the top of my painting, and so it makes it wet again, but evenly. And so if I just left it, nothing would happen, right? But I can now go in there with a color. Let's say I want to put little trees in there, like in the very distance. How's the weather? The weather's beautiful here. It's back here. It's up north. It's been bad, but here it's been really nice. So now I'm gonna take pure white. So watch this. I'm gonna take pure white. Now I should change my water. My water is very dirty. That's another thing she had taken across and told that she has like buckets of water that she switches out a lot of times. So up here, let's say I want to just get a cloud right here. This is all, I just dampen it, I just sprayed it, and you can also spray it while it's on there, and I can just, and it gets those little fingers, see the little veins? That's not what she said, veins, but I remember it's a word she used for this that was really cool. But see how that just, you just kind of put it in there, and let it get the veins, and it's going to creep around a little bit, and you look a little closer. See how it almost looks like the paper, and you can get some really neat effects with the white. You can just put it on there. It doesn't get the feel of like a thick, big, thick, huge pigment because you're doing it in a wet wash, and you can move it around even and help it along if you don't want some of those edges. And it will just look like it'll be opaque, but it doesn't look opaque like you normally think opaque is when you're doing a watercolor. Down here, where you're going to use the gouache later, it's going to look like gouache because it's going to be put on thick, very thick. And that's one thing about gouache is that you can have it on thick and it will not crack because it's made for putting on thick. It's like an acrylic, but it's a watercolor gouache, and you just put it on there, and I will show you that later. And let's see, let's go to our dark details, and let's get some of this. I missed some of these right here again, so I'm going to rub here a little bit. This is all wet now because I misted it, and so I'm going to take a little bit thicker paint. Kind of taking thick paint, and I'm just going to, it's wet there, so I can put a couple more pine trees that are in the background here. Those are a little bit too dark, so I'm going to take a little lighter color over them. So see how you can go back into an area and even still get the soft edges by just misting it, and you can get right up to close to something. You know, you can go right up close, and this color I'm using right now, the Compose green, has white in it, a lot of white in it, but look at how it just covers up, and then I can also add water with my brush too, and I can kind of just soften it that way too. And what happens if I use white in it? Let me just see. If I want to use white in here, just let it go really thick. But again, because it's wet and it's floating, it will look like it's just a wash, a nice wash of color or of white back through there. I'm going to take a little bit of this white, and I'm going to take a little bit of the orange and spatter a little bit because I want to make it look more, you know, there's actually a lot of white little spots here for the leaves of this tree. So what I want to do is take a little bit of this yellow and this gouache, and I will do it also with the gouache in a second. I want to see how it works, the difference between the gouache and just using white watercolor. It's going to be the same thing, it's just a different color. Spattering a little bit to get a little bit of effect in there. So next week we're going to probably do something very dark with a lot of black. Actually we're going to use black, so hopefully get yourself some black paint. And then the week after that we're going to try to do a black sheet of paper, the Stonehenge Aqua Black. That's the only watercolor paper out there that's black. We're going to try to see what we can do. And this is all gearing you towards that, you know, so we're going to keep on working on these with white or with black, and then we're going to do it on an actual sheet of black paper. So it's all new and different. It's not traditional, definitely not traditional, because we traditionally do not use white paint at all, and because it really kind of dulls the colors at times, because it makes it more a pastel color. So if you don't want a pastel color, don't use white. But that's what it does. It makes the color very pastel, like this lavender and such. But I love those colors, and so here now I'm putting a couple of these stones in there, gonna kind of make the same colors I have over here. So real quickly, put this in here. And now let's put our detail in, and then I'm gonna get some gouache. So there's some detail branches, and so I'm just gonna make them dark. Go into my browns. These are 3 different browns that were here. Actually, imidazolone brown, burnt umber, or burnt sienna. I think burnt sienna, imidazolone brown, and then a really dark. I think is imidazolone brown. This is burnt sienna and burnt umber. I think these are in that corner. And so I'm just gonna make these little lines of these branches going into the ground here. Rigger brush is great for that. Just a couple little branches here and there. At the same time, I can go in here and also tap a little bit, make some branches, or little weed type of things going up and down. It's still a little wet there, so I will make some watermark weeds, and that's fine too. Here, maybe in the water, there's some weeds coming up here and there. And so part of this I could have left a little bit with the yellow underneath, which I had done, but then I put the dark green over that. Only because I want to show you that you can, you're not always have to have the soft edges of the light color behind it. Yes, that's the best way to start, and that's the best way to learn, is first do it light, and then apply like thick, heavy gouache over that. You can do that. It's not, again, not a traditional way of doing things, but it's not, being the traditional way is not the only way of doing watercolor. It's like there's some societies that want you to do it that way, and that's fine. It's in their rules that you have to follow them. But don't be afraid of trying different things too, and trying to go for making your painting look different from anybody else's. And that's what it kind of is about. You want to kind of make yours look better than and different from other people's art. And so one more pine tree here. I decided that there's gonna be one here, nice and dark, right in front of all these guys, just to kind of be. This is kind of our center of interest. This area here, or like I like to call it, area of interest. So I'm gonna put one right. Let's see, right about here. Real quickly, gonna put a nice dark one in there, right to the front. There's nothing up in front here, and so push that right into there. Inside there, again, I want to put a little bit brighter, warmer colors because it's farther forward, and so let's put some nice warming oranges like I have in this grasses here anyways. Maybe I can put little twigs in there. Maybe this is going to have some light things too. Float some other colors in there. You can also float some light green. That's one thing I didn't do a lot, because I'm always against green, but if you use a really light yellow green, you can do that on a pine tree too, because there are parts of it sometimes that are a little bit lighter, hitting the light area. So see how I'm just making that a little bit lighter? And that's pretty thick paint. That's almost opaque. That's pretty much is opaque. All right, let's get out our, so here is a tube of gouache. This one's lemon. So let's squeeze this out a little bit here. Now these do dry out, like other things. I think they dry out. I had one, and they do loosen up. Not as easy as the watercolors I hope I mix, but they do loosen up. But again, not as much as like the Holbein watercolors, which are really nice when it comes to. So I put this color is called Japonica. Okay, Japonica yellow. Never heard of that. And how about an orange? Yellow and orange color. That was a light green. Here's an orange. So those 3 colors on my palette, you can see. I'm going to use those, and I'm going to use them thick now, guys. I'm not going to mess around with watering them down. I'm just going to use them pure. and which is like, again, I know you're all going to go, whoa, what is he doing? But this is the reason I'm using it. Tina asked if I ever thin out in a white acrylic. Yes, you can do that, definitely. And sometimes I use acrylic on my watercolors, so it's not a big problem at all. Matter of fact, sometimes I do a whole wash first with acrylic, and it stays perfect, because then it's there and it stays down, and you don't ever have to worry about it coming up on your second washes. So in here, I'm making this like really thick. These little dots I'm making here now. And do I have any white in here? I could use some white. Let's see if any of these sets have white. No. Oh yeah, we do have some titanium white. So it's always good to mix it with white, because I'm going to make it nice and really bright. I'm using my little rigger brush. I need to get myself also a brush that's not a rigger brush, like just a small brush, because sometimes you need that, where you're just using a really small brush, not where you're going far, you just want a really fine point. And now look at how thick that is and how bright that comes out. And I'm tapping it, I'm making groupings of these little dots, which are the leaves. They're the leaves of this little tree in front. But that's what I like about this picture. If you look at the picture, you see how they stick out like a sore thumb over there. Well, to get that, you have to either put mastic white down first and let the white of the paper show through, or like I'm doing now, use white paint or gouache, or use watercolor this thick. But I find that the gouache is better for thickness because it's made for that. That's what it's made for. It's basically made to do thick. Use it thick. And so I'm just going to go in here, get those nice little lights in there, and now it becomes a nice little fall scene. Look at all this little orange and yellow in there. And I needed a dark behind it to make it pop too, so that's how come I decided, instead of letting that be light over there, to do the dark and then just put this stuff in there. Now down here I can do the same thing. I don't want to wet it down and spatter it, because I'm just going to dot it. I'm just going to do it, actually dot with my brush, and then smear it and dot it. And if you go, I'm going to show it a little bit closer up so you can see that is like really thick paint. The focus here a little bit, but it's pretty thick. I mean, it's not thinned out paint. It is very thick paint. And it'll stay, it won't flake off or anything like that, because it's made to do things like that. That's why gouache is, they use gouache a lot. The acrylic gouache, they even use a lot of people plein air, and they use it so like they're using it with the with like an acrylic or a oil. So it's made for that. So don't be afraid to get yourself a little set of acrylic if you ever need to do this where you're using it thick. You can, like I said, you can also use white paint with your watercolor and make these colors, and it'll stay, it's fine, but it doesn't look as good. I must say, it doesn't look as good as if you actually use a gouache. There's a little bit of the spatter here. Now I'm going to use a little bit dark, use it thick over here, and do a little dark, little flecks in there. Do you ever thin out? Oh wait, okay. Is there a circumstance when white should never be used? No, only if you're entering a show where they do not allow white. Tabassum just asked if there's a circumstance where I don't use white, or you shouldn't use white. But if the regulations in a rule book, where they're when you're entering a show and they want transparent watercolor, do not use white. You're gonna get. All right, so we are back. Sorry about that. I don't know. I gotta talk to this app, or maybe it's because I'm in a hotel room and it didn't it didn't work again, or because we don't have really high Wi-Fi here. But here we go. Let me just finish it off, and actually we are pretty much close to done. And yes, I am back. Sorry about that, guys. It's always something with the virtual world. It's like I updated this app, and ever since I updated the app now, it's always been crashing. So I'm gonna have to get in touch with them and find out what's going on. And they actually just did another app updated just last week, and also today updated again. And they keep on. I'm not sure if there's something with the app or whatever. But anyways, I think the only thing I had left to do was do a little bit of the dark in here, and then we'll be all done. And so we're just gonna kind of take this and get the a few darks in here, little dark branches, and also dark leaves where again, when it hits the light area, and also more light areas, also little light branches, and a little bit dark over here, just a little dark back here, and I think we're gonna call it quits for today before this all goes again. I want to do one more spatter. Let me just spatter one more time in this corner right here. For this corner, I'm just going to take my brush and spatter there like crazy so that I can get a little bit more texture again. And dab it a little bit. Dab it. Maybe some a little bit thicker orange. Get this off of there. See how you got a little looks like a little bit flowers and such, and the wildflowers, and so let me take the mascoid out, or the masking tape off, and then we're done. And I'm hurrying up so it doesn't crash again. I just can't believe it's crashing. I didn't think it was going to happen this week, but even when I had the Zoom meeting on this morning, it did. It was not very much power, so it's been streaming slowly. So here's with without the tape. And let me look at from a distance. Always look at it from a distance to see if your center of interest is working. And I think the only thing I have, and let me just do this real quick. I think this area is kind of boring right here because it's like in the thing there's a little bit of white running through there, and a little bit more. So let's spray one more time to show you the white, and it's okay to do this. I'm going to take this spray bottle, spray that area white, and I'm going to tap some white, pure white in that area. I still have some white here. And like you said, you can use other things besides watercolor white, but usually I use titanium watercolor white. Works great. Now I have a lot of yellow in this white, and so I take my tissue paper and just get it out of there, the yellow. And I'm going to take, and I sprayed it, and so I'm just going to, oh, what did I do here? I tapped it, a little bit of red in there. So I'm going to do a little bit of the little misted little clouds in here, like morning dew. It's still in the air in the mountains, and you can see that in the picture. There's a lot of this, and so by spraying it, you can just put it on there. So I'm going to get rid of these little red marks over here too at the same time. Again, use it pretty thick. I use it pretty wet here. I can make it go right into that area. And it's going to be soft edge, and it's going to look like mist because I'm using it wet into wet. Now it's going to look a little bit more like a little mist, right? All right, guys. Thanks again for another Thursday. Next week, really dark painting. Get some black. Get some. I use peach black. You can use any other colors. Black, ivory black. What other colors do they have? They have. Oh man, there's all different kinds of blacks. But any kind of black color that you want, that's fine. And the week after that, we're using white. So get yourself some titanium white and black paper, and also get yourself some black paper, and that's about 2 weeks away. And so the rest of the year, I do not have. Don't think I'm going anywhere until January, where I'll be down in Florida. So get your stuff here on Thursdays, and we're going to go next week. We're going to go back to 6:30, and again, that's because I'll be back at home in Central Standard Time, like always. So thanks again, guys. Here's cheers, and we'll see you next week with my naked juice. All right, see you guys next week. Bye bye.